You thought you were liberating yourself. You thought shedding the masks would make you powerful. You thought authenticity was your weapon against a world of pretenders. But here's what Machiavelli knew 5 centuries ago that you're learning the hard way today. In a kingdom of actors, the one who refuses to play their part becomes the enemy of the state. And that enemy? That's you. If you've ever felt the room grow cold when you stopped performing, if you've watched relationships dissolve the moment you became real, if you've discovered that being yourself is the fastest way to make everyone else hate you, then you're about to understand why they truly despise what you've become. Stay with me to uncover how this hatred will lead you to your triumph. The moment you decided to stop being who others needed you to be, you declared war on their entire reality. You became the mirror they can't bear to look into, the truth they can't afford to acknowledge, the living proof that their whole life is a lie. They don't hate you, they hate what you represent, the courage they'll never have. But here's where it gets dangerous. What you're about to discover will either destroy you or forge you into something unbreakable. Machiavelli warned that the path to power is paved with the hatred of those you've outgrown. And your authenticity? It's the most threatening power of all. You know that feeling when you walk into a family gathering and suddenly everyone's energy shifts? When your old friends start making jokes about your new phase with that condescending smile? When your co-workers whisper about how you've gotten weird since you stopped laughing at their toxic jokes? That's not coincidence. That's warfare. They can smell your freedom on you like a predator smells fear. And it terrifies them because deep down, they know they're still in prison while you've found the key. Every authentic choice you make is a reminder of all the authentic choices they're too scared to make. Every boundary you set highlights all the boundaries they're too weak to enforce. Every time you choose truth over comfort, you're holding up a mirror to their cowardice. And cowards hate mirrors more than anything else in the world. But why does your truth scare them more than any lie ever could? The answer lies in the strategy they're using to dismantle you, step by step. The strategist's dilemma. When truth becomes treason. Machiavelli understood something that modern self-help gurus refuse to admit. Authenticity is not about being nice. It's about being effective. And in a world where everyone's survival depends on mutual deception, your truth becomes their existential threat. You've broken the oldest social contract in human history, the agreement to pretend together. You've violated the sacred pact of collective unconsciousness. You've committed the ultimate betrayal. You've woken up. Pay attention to this next part, because they're probably doing this to you right now, and you don't even realize it. This is the exact moment when most people crack and go crawling back to their fake life. Watch how they do it. First, they'll question your sanity. "You've changed," they'll say, with that particular tone that makes change sound like a disease. They'll diagnose you with problems you don't have, prescribe solutions you don't need, all while positioning themselves as the concerned friend watching you lose yourself. But you haven't lost yourself. You've found yourself, and that's exactly what terrifies them. Next, they'll isolate you. Invitations will stop coming. Group chats will continue without you. Plans will be made around your absence. They'll create a world where your authenticity has no place, where your truth has no voice, where your reality has no witnesses. You'll refresh your phone, checking for messages that never come. You'll scroll through their stories, watching them live the life you used to be included in. You'll wonder if maybe you were wrong, If maybe you should just put the mask back on. If maybe being fake was better than being alone. This is the moment when most people break. This is when they crawl back, apologizing for the crime of being real, begging for readmission into the theater of pretense. They'd rather be connected to lies than disconnected from people. They'd rather be invited to fake friendships than uninvited from real growth. But here's what they don't tell you about this phase. It's not permanent. It's purgatory. And purgatory is where souls are purified, not punished. You're not losing your tribe. You're discovering you never had one to begin with. And when you think it's over, they launch their most brutal tactic yet, the rewriting of your soul, the character assassination. They'll rewrite your history, turning your growth into pathology, your awakening into breakdown, your strength into weakness. They'll create a narrative where you're the villain of your own story. This is Machiavellian warfare at its finest. And you're losing because you're playing by rules that don't exist. What you are about to discover will shake you to your core. Because your face, your actual face, is no longer just a face. It's become something far more dangerous. It's a threat, a mirror, a Medusa. And they can't stand what they see. The mirror of Medusa, while your face turns them to stone. In The Prince, Machiavelli wrote that men judge more with their eyes than their hands. They see what appears to be, not what is. But you've become the exception that proves the rule. When you walk into a room now, you're not just another player in their elaborate theater. You're the audience member who stands up in the middle of the performance and announces that the emperor has no clothes. You're the child who points out that the magic trick is just sleight of hand. Your very existence is a question they can't answer. If you can live without the mask, why can't they? But here's the psychological warfare they're waging against you that will blow your mind. And the method they're using, it's so subtle that you'll think you're going crazy. The art of authentic warfare. They're making you doubt your own perception. They're gaslighting you into believing that your awakening is actually a breakdown, that your clarity is actually confusion. Here comes the part they'll never admit, the truth that will make everything click into place. You used to feed their addiction, and now they're starving. Remember when you used to laugh at their jokes, even when they weren't funny? Remember when you used to nod along with their complaints, even when you knew they were just making excuses? Remember when you used to shrink yourself in meetings, relationships, conversations, just to make everyone else comfortable? You thought you were being kind. You thought you were being a good friend, a good employee, a good person. But what you were really being was a drug dealer, feeding people the comfortable lies they needed to avoid facing their own truth. And now that you've gone clean, they're experiencing withdrawal. They're jonesing for their fix of your false validation, your enabling energy, your willingness to play small so they could feel big. Without you shrinking, they can't avoid seeing how small they actually are. They won't attack your authenticity directly. That would be too obvious. Instead, they've weaponized something far more sinister. These are the exact psychological weapons Machiavelli warned about, and they're being used against you right now. The weapon of concern. We're worried about you. You've changed. Translation, you're not the person we could control anymore. The weapon of nostalgia. You used to be fun. You used to go along with things. Translation, remember when you helped us avoid ourselves? The weapon of gaslighting. You're being too sensitive. You're overreacting. Translation, stop forcing us to face reality. The weapon of social proof. Everyone thinks you're going through something. Translation: we've formed a coalition against your truth. Each accusation is a confession. Each criticism is a mirror. Each attack is an admission that you've touched something in them they're desperate to keep buried. Each attack is designed to make you doubt your own experience and return to the comfortable lies that made their lives easier. But here's what Machiavelli understood. The very intensity of their resistance proves the power of your truth. The most insidious part of their campaign is how they'll recruit others to join their cause. They're building an army against your authenticity, and they're using your own psychology against you. The coalition of the comfortable. Machiavelli warned, men are so simple and so ready to obey present necessities that the one who deceives will always find someone willing to be deceived. Your former allies aren't just rejecting you. They're actively recruiting others to reject you too. They need consensus for their perception of reality. They'll share concerned conversations about your behavior. They'll position themselves as the reasonable ones, while you're the difficult one who won't listen. They'll rewrite history. They used to be so easygoing before they got all into this self-improvement stuff. They'll recruit new members. Ever since they found themselves, they act like they're better than everyone. The brilliant part is that they're not entirely wrong. Your authenticity does make them feel bad about themselves, but they're framing your evolution as your aggression, your growth as your attack. But here's where it gets truly diabolical. They'll use your own compassion against you. They'll exploit your desire for connection to pull you back into the very prison you escaped. The exploitation of your compassion. Machiavelli observed, since love and fear can hardly exist together, if we must choose between them, it is far safer to be feared than loved. Your former friends know you love them. They know you care about connection, and they will weaponize every bit of your compassion to manipulate you back into compliance. They'll cry. They'll tell you how much they miss the old you. They'll make you feel guilty for growing. Your authenticity is selfish. Your truth is hurting people. They'll offer conditional acceptance. We love you, but. We accept you, but. The but is always the same, but only if you go back to being who we need you to be. This is emotional blackmail disguised as love. They're holding your relationships hostage until you return to your cell. But Machiavelli understood that the most dangerous enemies are those who believe they're righteous, because they'll go to any lengths to help you, including destroying the very thing that makes you truly alive. The psychological pressure they're applying has a specific purpose: to trigger your deepest fears about being unlovable. Here's how they're using your own wounds against you. The weaponization of your wounds. Machiavelli wrote, everyone sees what you appear to be, few experience what you really are. Your former circle knows both, and they will use every piece of intimate knowledge as ammunition against your authenticity. They'll remind you of your failures. Remember when you tried to change before and it didn't work. They'll trigger your abandonment fears. You're going to end up alone if you keep this up. They'll exploit your imposter syndrome. Who do you think you are? You're not special. They'll use your empathy against you. Look how you're affecting everyone. Is your truth worth all this pain? Each attack is precisely calibrated to hit your most vulnerable spots. They're trying to make you feel like authenticity itself is dangerous, selfish, destructive. But here's what they don't understand. Your wounds are not evidence that you're wrong. They're evidence that you're human. And your willingness to heal them, that's not weakness. That's courage. The most painful part? Some of these people genuinely believe they're helping you. They think they're staging an intervention for your problem, when really they're trying to drag you back into their shared delusion. They're not evil, they're terrified. And terrified people do terrible things in the name of love. You've become the repository for everything they've rejected in themselves. Their own suppressed authenticity, their own abandoned dreams, their own unlived life. But here's what they don't realize, and this is where everything changes. You've already discovered something that makes you completely undefeatable. And once you understand this secret, their entire strategy crumbles. The art of authentic war, why they can't defeat you. Here's what Machiavelli knew that you're just beginning to understand. The person who has nothing left to lose is the most dangerous opponent of all. And you've already lost everything that wasn't real. Every time they exclude you, they're proving that your authenticity is working. Every time they dismiss you, they're confirming that your truth is powerful. Every time they try to shame you back into unconsciousness, they're revealing just how much your awakening threatens their entire world view. You're not losing anything real. You're simply discovering what was never real to begin with. And here's the part that will either break you or make you invincible. You have to grieve them anyway, because even though they weren't real, your investment in them was. Even though they were based on lies, your hope that they could become real was genuine. You'll cry for the person you used to be, the people-pleaser, the performer, the one who made everyone else comfortable at the cost of their own soul. You'll mourn the relationships that could have been, if only they had been brave enough to love your truth instead of your mask. You'll grieve the years you spent building a life that was never actually yours. This grief is sacred. This pain is necessary. This mourning is the birth canal of your authentic self. Machiavelli understood that true power comes not from being loved by everyone, but from being feared by your enemies and respected by your allies. And your authenticity? It naturally separates these two categories. Those who fear your truth were never your allies. They were your energy vampires, your growth limiters, your authenticity suppressors. They needed you weak to feel strong. They needed you fake to feel real. But those who respect your truth, they're your real tribe. They're the ones who've been waiting for permission to remove their own masks. The hatred of the many is the price you pay for the love of the few who matter. Here's something shocking. Every person who hates your authenticity is actually giving you a gift, though they don't know it. And when you understand what this gift is, you'll never fear rejection again. The alchemy of rejection, turning hatred into power. Though they don't know it, they're showing you exactly what you've transcended. They're proving that your growth is real. They're confirming that you've broken free from the matrix of a mutual deception. Their hatred is your diploma. Their rejection is your graduation ceremony. But here's where most people fail. They take the rejection personally. They internalize the criticism. They begin to doubt their own experience. This is the ultimate test of your authenticity. Can you stand in the fire of their rejection without burning? Can you remain centered in your truth while everyone around you calls it madness? If you can, you've achieved something that most people never will. Complete independence from others' opinions. Here's something that will completely transform how you handle attacks on your authenticity. The dark art of emotional immunity. Machiavelli taught that a prince must be both lion and fox, strong enough to defeat wolves, clever enough to recognize traps. In the context of authenticity, this means developing both the strength to withstand attack and the wisdom to avoid unnecessary battles. When someone attacks your authenticity, you don't need to defend it, you don't need to explain it, you don't need to justify it. You simply need to remain grounded in the knowledge that their attack is about them, not you. Their projection is their confession. Their attack is their admission of pain. The person who mocks your growth is revealing their own stagnation. The person who criticizes your authenticity is confessing their own performance. Once you understand this, their attacks lose all power over you. They become information rather than injury. They become data rather than damage. The phoenix rising, what emerges from the ashes. Here's what happens when you survive the fire of rejection, when you endure the loneliness of authenticity, when you refuse to put the mask back on despite the pressure. You become unstoppable. Not because you're trying to prove anything to anyone, but because you're no longer held back by the need for approval. All that energy you used to spend maintaining facades, managing others' emotions, and suppressing your truth. It becomes available for creating, building, achieving. You become a force of nature because you're no longer forcing anything. You become powerful because you're no longer pretending to be powerless. The ultimate Machiavellian move, loving your enemies. Here's the final twist, the master stroke that separates the truly authentic from the merely rebellious. You learn to love those who hate your authenticity, not the sentimental love that pretends their attacks don't hurt, but the mature love that understands their pain, recognizes their fear, and sees through their projection to the wounded child beneath. You realize that everyone who hates your authenticity is actually crying out for their own. They're not really angry at you. They're angry at themselves for not having the courage to live as you're living. Their hatred is their hunger in disguise. Their rejection is their longing turned inside out. And when you understand this, really understand it, you stop taking their attacks personally. You stop needing to defend yourself. Instead, you become a living example of what's possible. You become a beacon for those who are ready to wake up. The New World Order, your authentic empire. As you embody this level of authenticity, you begin to attract a different quality of person into your life. Not the people who need you to be small so they can feel big. Not the people who require your performance to maintain their illusions. You attract other awakened souls, other truth-tellers, other people who've paid the price of authenticity and found it worth every penny. These connections are different from anything you've experienced before. They're based on truth rather than pretense. They're built on genuine seeing rather than projected fantasy. These are your real people, your authentic tribe, your chosen family. And together, you create a new kind of world, one where masks are unnecessary, where truth is welcome, where authenticity is valued above approval. This is your empire, not built on conquest, but on liberation, not maintained by force, but by attraction. The call to authentic arms. So here's your choice, the same choice Machiavelli presented to every prince who wanted to rule wisely. You can continue to seek the approval of people who can only love your mask. Or you can embrace the revolutionary act of being yourself and trust that the right people will find you. You can keep performing in hopes of maintaining connections that were never real. Or you can risk everything for the possibility of relationships that are. The path I've shown you isn't easy. It requires courage that most people never develop. It demands a kind of strength that can't be built in the gym. But it's the only path that leads to genuine freedom, the only way to live without regret, The only method to die without wondering, what if? Your authentic manifesto. Every day you choose authenticity over approval. You're not just changing your life, you're changing the world. You're proving that it's possible to live without masks. You're demonstrating that truth doesn't kill. It liberates. So let them hate you. Let them project their shadows onto your light. Let them call you crazy, difficult, too much, not enough. Because there's nothing wrong with you. There's only something right with you that they're not ready to see. And while they're busy hating you for being real, you'll be busy building a life that's actually worth living. You'll be creating relationships that actually nourish your soul. You'll be free. The hatred of the many is a small price to pay for the love of the few who matter, and the love of the one who matters most, yourself. The final Machiavellian truth. As we close this journey through the psychology of authentic rejection, remember this final truth that Machiavelli carved into the hearts of all who would rule wisely. It is better to be feared for who you are than loved for who you are not. Their hatred of your authenticity is just fear in disguise. Fear that you've found something they're still searching for. Fear that you've become something they're still afraid to be. Let them fear. Let them hate. Let them project. Because on the other side of their rejection lies your liberation. On the other side of their hatred lies your freedom. On the other side of their fear lies your power. You are not here to make everyone comfortable. You are here to live. The world needs your truth, even if the world doesn't know it yet. Be so authentically yourself that you give others permission to do the same. That's the ultimate Machiavellian victory, winning a war that your enemies didn't even know was being fought for their own liberation. If this resonated with your soul, if you felt the sting of rejection for being real, if you're ready to stop apologizing for your authenticity, then you're part of the awakening. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Like this video if it helped you understand why they hate you for being real. And subscribe for more truth that cuts through the lies we tell ourselves. Because the revolution of authenticity starts with you. And it starts now. Now go. Be real. Be hated. Be free. The world is waiting for your authenticity, even if it doesn't know it yet.